Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Crime Chatter. Tonight, we're going to discuss the who's who in the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell ongoing saga. So, what you have in front of you here is a very large diagram of the folks involved in that are very close to this case. I'm going to go ahead and cover this with you tonight. If you've been following the case since the beginning, you're very familiar with these folks. I've been following this case for almost 6 months. And so some of this, for anyone that's been following the case for a long period of time, is going to be, a little monotonous. But as this case is picking up some traction in the media, as everyone starts to go to trial and we're awaiting additional charges and all of those sorts of things, I wanted to give anyone that may be new to the case and have some curiosity about it, the 411 on who everyone is. So let's get into it. As you can see, the chart is titled The Convoluted Family Ties Surrounding Lori Vallow Daybell and Her Missing Children. So let's just say this. We know now that the children were murdered and their bodies have been found. So this chart is rather old, but someone put some work into it. Unfortunately, there's no watermark on the diagram, and I did pull it off of Reddit. So if anyone knows who made this chart, please send me an email and I'll make sure that they get credit in the video for their work. So we pretty much know that Lori Vallow Daybell, who was born in 1973, she actually has been married several times. Her first marriage was to a gentleman named Nelson Yanes. Her second husband was William Longoria. If you see the arrow to the left of William's name, Colby Ryan, they did share a son together. They married October 22nd of 1995. The divorce was filed in December of 1996 and final in February of 1998. She then went on to marry Joseph Ryan Jr. She married him in 2001 and divorced him in May of 2005. Joseph is deceased. He did pass away on April 3rd, 2018, which we know that it's very possible that his death is now under investigation. And everyone is watching that. It was noted that his death was ruled to be a result of a heart attack, and he was cremated. His body was found in his Texas home for several weeks after he had passed away. And some sources say that Alex Cox was seen in Texas during this time. So there is some speculation surrounding that. Now, Lori's marriage to Joseph resulted in a child, which was Tylee Ryan, born September 24th, 2002, which we now know is deceased, and her body was found buried on Chad Daybell's property. After being married to Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., Lori went on to marry Leland Charles Anthony Vallow. Charles is also deceased. We know that Charles passed away July 11, 2019. He passed away as a result of Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, shot him in what he stated was self-defense after being hit in the head with a baseball bat. We know that Charles' death is also under investigation for possible murder. But Charles and Lori did have an adopted son. His name is JJ Vallow. He was born May 25th, 2012. We know his body was also found on Chad Daybell's property, buried. So let's talk a little bit about Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, who's deceased. Alex was a truck driver. He was also a comedian. If you go out to YouTube, you can actually find a video of his where he was doing some stand-up routine. But Alex has a pretty tattered past. He actually had, at one point, did some jail time for an assault that he committed on Joseph Ryan. He tased him, and he actually jokes about it in that stand-up routine that you can find on YouTube. So if you have any curiosity in that, you can certainly find that. So Colby Ryan is Lori's only now living child. He is married. He's an adult. He has a wife named Kelsey. Kelsey was present in the court proceedings whenever the last time Lori was in court. So you could see her there. Colby's mother-in-law's name is Carrie Tucker. Miss Tucker has been involved a little bit. She had a GoFundMe set up for Colby. I do have some sympathy for Colby. I mean, he's the only person in his immediate family left. I mean, his mother's just a family annihilator, right? But he's not been able to work, and they have a special needs child, and as you can imagine, the mental baffling this man's going through right now. He relied on his mom, I think, somewhat financially. She supported him as well prior to that. So, that's Colby, and you can see him at the court cases. He's made some posts visiting the children's site out at the Daybell property and leaving some things for them. So let's cover real quick Joseph Ryan. We talked about him, Lori's deceased husband, that's death now possibly could be under investigation. He has a sister. Her name is Annie Cushing, and she's also then the aunt of Tylee. Annie has been diligently investigating this case. She has put together she has a YouTube, it's like analytics. You can go over there, but she puts stuff on Twitter, so just watch for Annie. She is really working hard to seek justice for the children, and also just really understand how all this went wrong. And she does a lot of dissecting and a lot of deep dives into the case. So my heart's with Annie, and my prayers are with her. And I'm also super proud of her, because she literally is like the Nancy Drew of this case, and I'm sure she's helped law enforcement tremendously with her efforts. So some folks question Annie and why she's so deeply involved because of the way everything played out, but obviously here Lori was in control of everything. So I just ask you all to remember that. Here it's just covering when the kids were last seen. That's been updated a little bit now. But JJ's biological parents, we don't hear a lot about them. I think they were troubled youth, maybe troubled adults, but anyway, JJ ended up being adopted by Lori and Charles. But biological father's name is Todd Trahan. Mother's name is Mandy Ledger. I imagine it's a terrible time for those folks. A lot of folks may not have any sympathy, but if you think about it, whether forced or maybe they voluntarily gave him up for adoption or whatever it is, it's still a loss and a wound that you never get over in your life. And whether it's a decision you made or one that was made for you, I think at this point anyone could have they're his biological parents. So and beneath that is Larry and Kay Woodcock, which Kay Woodcock is the one that started this whole thing. She's the one that called for the welfare check because she hadn't been able to speak to her grandson. Larry Woodcock then would be the, and Kay which is Charles's sister, by the way. Kay Woodcock is Charles' sister. Larry Woodcock would be his brother-in-law. They are the biological grandparents, paternal grandparents of JJ. And they had no rights to him at the time, but they just spoke with him regularly and wanted to keep that open relationship. And since he stayed in the family, there was no reason for them not to. So, off to here, it's going to note some things about the storage unit, which we've all heard about the totes going in and out and so forth. All this time they're saying no children, no children. Well, we know now why they were saying that. So here it goes. Here's the exact dates. Kay and Larry who alerted authorities to the disappearance of the kids when they asked for a welfare check to be done for JJ. November 26th of 2019. Lori lied about JJ's whereabouts, and the next day Lori and Chad were in Hawaii. Authorities later learned that Tylee was also missing. After the children went missing, Kay and Larry filed for a petition for custody of JJ, which we know now, which I'll never understand why she just didn't give him to her, And a lot of times I think only Tylee may have only stayed in the situation because she was JJ's protector. And if she would have let JJ go with Kay and Larry, maybe Tylee would have went on with her life and none of this would have happened. So, this is going to lead us over here to Chad Daybell, which we know is the current husband of Lori Vallow. Present. Chad was born in 1968, 5 years Lori's senior. What's really sad about this is leaning back on Charles Vallow. He was really fighting for Lori. If you look at some of the police cam footage, if you know that he had her held for a 72-hour mental health evaluation. He did file for divorce in February 2019, and around the same time, she was in Hawaii with Tylee, only allegedly to recruit a friend as one of the 144,000, because that's the whole thing this comes down to, is that Chad and Lori think that they are the head of the 144,000, which is a Mormon-related term. So, Charles later drops the divorce proceedings less than a month later, although he and Lori remain legally separated. Now, I have some speculation on why that happened, but what I think it is Lori needed the opportunity to manipulate his life insurance again, and basically she went back for the money. So Chad Daybell was married for a very long time to a woman named Tammy Douglas. Was Daybell. She's now deceased. Her death is under investigation, and we hope that she gets justice for what they did to her, because I now have no doubt in my mind that Tammy Douglas, I hate to even say Daybell, because the way she was betrayed by her long time husband, who she married in 1990. Chad has always said that to his Julie Rowe, which is a fellow cult member, because that's what this is, a cult, that he received revelation that his wife would die approximately 3 weeks prior to Tammy's actual death. And I guess he was saying that for years, but I guess stirring it back up, he thought only helped his cause. On October 18, 2019, Chad stated Tammy had a coughing fit before bed. She was found dead the next day, and the death was originally ruled as natural causes. On December 11th, 2019, the day before Alex Cox died, her body was exhumed from the grave to perform a second autopsy. So that autopsy, they've been holding out on that for a long time now, but my understanding is that sometimes, they can take a really long time. So we are still looking forward for anyone that's just joining the case. We are still looking forward to any murder charges in Tammy's death, in Charles' death, in the children's death. And we also do not have back that autopsy report, just to be clear. So Chad does have some family that's been pretty involved. Jack and Sheila Daybell would be Chad's parents. Lori Vallow Daybell's attorney requested law enforcement records regarding them. They told law enforcement that they were told Lori Vallow Daybell was an empty nester. So Chad told his parents that she didn't have any kids. Matt and Heather Daybell, which are Chad's younger brother, we know that Heather Daybell actually just issued a letter, which I'm going to do a video on later, dissect it, chat with you about it. Anyone that's following the case and would like to know, they had been very quiet. They had issued a very brief statement some time ago, and now she was forced, because they are obviously higher ups in the church. She was asked to issue a statement to someone in the church, which was leaked, and we have our hands on, and we can kind of get her perspective through that. So Matt had issued a public statement saying he and his family weren't close to Chad because of his religious beliefs, and that they had urged Chad to please cooperate with law enforcement. Now, Chad and his wife Tammy have 5 children: Lee Murphy, Emma Murray, Garth Daybell, Seth Daybell, and Mark Daybell. And this reads, a friend close to Lee Murphy, who knew the Daybell family before this case, shared a screenshot of a conversation with her where Lee says that she believes the children were safe and being protected from a custody battle, and that Alex died from an asthma attack. So we know that Alex, his autopsy came back with something else, so this is old, but did the family really believe these things, or were they covering up for Chad has always been a question. We do know that we have found some of Emma Murray's writings regarding her LDS beliefs, and we now know that some of the things that they get into when they start talking about vibrations and things really go against the church's doctrine. And so we know she was somewhat following her father's teachings, and she's the second daughter. Lee would be the oldest. So Emma is a school teacher. She did work side by side with her mother at the same school. Her mother was the librarian, and so we know all of them. There's a freedom forum for the LDS, and we were able to see hundreds and hundreds of writings from Emma Murray. So if that interests you at all, you can certainly go out and look that up. So Tammy does have a sister. Their name is Sarah and Jason Gwilliam. Did I say that right? Anyway, she's listed as her sister on her obituary. Sarah and Jason have told law enforcement that they were told that Lori had no children. Again, no children. We know that they also said that about the place that they rented in Hawaii, that they had no children. And that's because they were already dead. So sad. So let's see who else we have. So Alex Cox, we know he's dead. Passed away. He's the suspected. Well, it looks like maybe they're going to place it on him, right? The murder of the kids and everything. His cell phone pinged at the burial location. And there are a lot of things pointing towards the fact that he was, Lori's enforcer, or whatever you want to call him. So Lori does have another brother named Adam Cox. Now, Adam hasn't been brought up a lot in the case. We know that he is a radio disc jockey. We also know that he has a prior weird incident in his past, actually, where they were having some kind of contest at the radio station that was drinking large amounts of water, and then someone ended up dying. And so you could find a YouTube video about that, which includes Adam Cox, where he talks about that, which is just another weird fact. But we also know that Adam Cox was brought up recently whenever they shared the police footage of the welfare check of the children. She said that Charles and her brother Adam, she was hiding from them because they were going to murder her for her life insurance money. Which, I mean, we all know is probably a farce, or is a farce, but that's the next time that we heard about Adam. Now, Janice Lee Cox and Barry Lynn Cox would be Lori's mother and father. Barry has some interesting dealings with the IRS, where he and Janice claim that they were somehow exempt from paying federal income tax. And when I read it, it says a lot of stuff about sovereignty and being sovereign in it. So I think maybe they were leaning towards being sovereign citizens, and that has been speculated. So if you don't know anything about a sovereign citizen, just Google it. Barry also received a cease and desist because he distributed flyers advertising legal service, and it said that he was signing this as an esquire. So at some point, the State Bar Association in Arizona sent him a cease and desist and asked him to stop. So Lori has another sister. Her name is Summer Novell Cox Shiflett. Now, Summer is married. Her husband is a chiropractor, but Summer is very involved in the case. At some point, she says that she's the one that sent Alex to spend the night at Lori's the night before he killed Charles, stating that she was worried that Charles was acting erratic and so forth. So also, there's another person involved in this case. His name is Jason Mao, and he's a former Arizona policeman. He's also a friend of Lori and Chad's, and he's also suspected in maybe being involved in covering up or something to do with the murder of Charles. So, but anyway, he's highly involved in the LDS. He teaches kids, and he's written a book. And at some point, I was looking at Summer's Facebook, and she's pushing his book, and he's part of the cult, and I believe that Summer Shiflett is also part of the cult. So Lori had another sister. Her name is Stacy Lynn Cope. She's deceased, but Stacy Lynn is the mother of Melanie Cope Boudreaux Pulowski, which is Lori's niece, Stacy's child. And we know a lot about Melanie, right? For anyone just joining, Melanie has been in all kinds of trouble. At some point, Alex, the brother that's deceased, is believed to take a shot at her ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. He was shot at in the driveway of his Gilbert, Arizona home on October 2nd, 2019. The Jeep was registered to Charles Vallow and was later found in Rexburg, Idaho, the same city where Lori had just rented a storage unit. But we know after Charles passed, the Jeep became Tylee's. And we also know that Lori had rented the storage unit there, and at some point we see them carrying the car seat in and out of the storage unit, and I bet that was to make room for Alex to be able to take his shot at Brandon. Just speculation there on my part, but just to help you folks through that, if you go back and watch that video, there's been a lot of discussion about tote, tote, tote. It's definitely a folded car seat that came out of the back of the Jeep. So, Actually, Melanie's gotten herself in a little bit of trouble because she was caught trespassing on her ex-husband's parents' American Fork, Utah property in November of 2019, being driven there by Alex Cox in his 2020 Kia Telluride. On the 14th, she attempted to trespass again, saying she had a court order for the children. Police arrested her for trespassing, and Alex bonded her out the following day. She also popped that divorce on Brandon. He says they were happily married. And in June of 2019, after spending a lot of time with Lori's new religious group, alleging the divorce was a revelation. But we also know that there was a letter issued where Chad had rated everyone light and dark, and I think that had a lot to do with the decision making. So if you're new to the case and you haven't seen that, go ahead and Google that. Chad Daybell went ahead and made a list of everyone pretty much involved everywhere, and rates them with this really odd scale of numbers, but we seem to know what happened to the folks that are dark and get in his way. So Melanie divorces Brandon and marries this gentleman here in the middle of the screen. His name is Ian Pulaski, by the way. She's currently pregnant with his child. They married on November 30th of 2019 in Clark County, Nevada, one day after Alex Cox marries in the same county. He did marry a woman named Zulema Pastines. I'm not sure if she made this, if she made the list or not, but excuse me for my scroll there, but I don't think she made the list, but we'll double check. Oh, yep, there she is right in front of me. Alex and Zulema were married in the chapel in Vegas, and witnesses state that the ceremony was very businesslike and lasted about 8 minutes. And the witnesses to the marriage was the chapel's security guard. However, what was most notable is that Alex took Zumella's last name. And some folks say this is common with Mormons. I think that Alex was trying to distance himself from his recent actions, and for some reason thought maybe this would make him harder to find or something of that sort. Who knows what goes on in these people's minds. Zulema's been in hiding since all of this happened. She's made no statement. She's not showed her face. She's a very tattered, weird, strange past, and I'll do a deep dive into her later, but she's like a professional cuddler, which is short for I don't know what, but you can leave that to your imagination. She also says she's a life coach and she's a healer, and she makes some pretty bizarre claims, but there's a couple podcasts out there. If you go Google her name, you can snatch one of those up and listen to it, and you can make your own opinions. Leave some comments below for me while you're going through this, and just kind of let me know if I cleared anything up for you, if you have any additional questions. Natalie Pulaski would be the ex-wife of Natalie Pulaski would be the ex-wife of Ian. And Natalie has really helped blow this case open. Natalie provided Brandon with several documents she found on the computer she received from Ian Pulaski. These documents surfaced in connection with Brandon's child custody case against Melanie. The documents Ian supposedly wrote reveal how Ian was actively cooperating with law enforcement, even recording phone calls, and how he believes Melanie is innocent in all of this. He talks about how Zulema and Alex stayed behind in Vegas to prepare earthquakes. Bizarre. But yeah, there's a huge document Ian Pulaski put out. I'm going to make a video and cover that for you as well. You can leave in the comments what you'd like to see first, like a deep dive into Zulema, or if you'd like to hear some more about that document that Ian wrote up and provided to the FBI. I'm just going to go back around this really quick just to see if there's anything I missed that's worth noting. Yeah, and And one interesting fact about Charles they have noted here is law enforcement records regarding Adam Cox were requested by Lori Vallow's attorney. An email law enforcement believes to be from Charles Vallow to Adam Cox reveals that Charles found an email account and an email under his name that he believes Lori sent to Chad. In the email, Charles tells Adam that he will forward the email to Chad's wife. This email was written by Charles on June 29th. Charles is killed less than 2 weeks later. So that's another interesting fact in all of this. And we now know the FBI is processing like 100,000 pieces of electronic data from these folks. So, you know, who knows? Hopefully they've got it all. So, I just want to scroll and make sure that I didn't leave anything out. The Daybell children, Tammy's sister. So, also, I didn't know Joseph Lopez, which is thought to be Zulema Pastine's son. He is the one that called 911. Only thing known is that Joseph referred to Alex as his mother's boyfriend, which we know they were married at the time, which is bizarre. It's more likely that Zulema and Joseph are related, so we do believe that Joseph is her son. And I had an outside conversation with an ex-stepdaughter of Zulema's who confirmed with me that was the case, that he's her son. So that's all the spouses. Okay, everybody, I think I've got all this covered for you. I hope this got you through everything. I know it was long, a half hour to cover it, but I wanted to give this because it's very complicated and it's easy to get lost, but the case is very interesting. So I always like my viewers to stay informed. So thank you so much for tuning in to my video on the who's who in the convoluted family ties surrounding Lori Vallow, Daybell, and Chad Daybell and the murdered children. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like the video, please share it with anyone that may have a similar interest. We really appreciate you all.